Okay, magandang Miyerkules po uli ng hapon. Can you believe it? Last Wednesday of the month. Parang kailan lang, January. Ngayon, matatapos na yung huling Miyerkules sa ikalimang buwan ng 2021. O, di ba? Ang bilis. Grabe ang panahon. At magandang balita because bumababa na daw ang ating, at least dyan sa NCR at yung 6 na probinsya, bumababa na daw yung COVID cases. At mukhang marami nang humihirit na padamihin ng trabaho. Ay sana nga po ay pupunta na tayo doon. Kaya lang maraming pasaway. Sinasabing 30%. Pero mukhang pag walang nakakakita, walang nakatingin, ay di mga Pilipino ay balik sa dating ugali. Kaya kung gusto ho nating matapos ang pandemyang ito, ay nasa sa atin po yun. Di ba? Yung Bayanihan 3 daw, ipapasa na ngayong hapon ng mga mambabatas. Kahit walang certification ng National Treasury. Ewan ko kung saan kukunin ng mga congressmen yung pondo sa Bayanihan 3. Ay mga senador, cautious sila. Ayaw nilang maggawa ng batas na walang perang pagkukunan. Ayan. Anyway, for this afternoon, it's going to be a habit na yata. No? It's beginning to be a habit in this program that major programs are being launched in this show. So this afternoon is no exception to the rule because we are graced by our guests from different embassies in the Philippines to personally launch the program. And actually from Indonesia and the European Union. And mind you, we are posted at the Facebook page of the European Union. Without further ado, and to maximize the presence of our first guests, may I request Sheila, the muse of the program, to introduce our guest for this afternoon for the launching of Scope or Project Scope. Sheila?
Good afternoon, DJ Ron, and good afternoon sa ating mga kanasyon. Our first guest for today's episode is the Head of Cooperation of the EU Delegation to the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Christoph Wagner. Good afternoon, sir.
A very good afternoon, and thank you, Sheila. Thank you, DJ Ronald. I try to understand what you're saying. My Tagalog is not very good, obviously, but I heard a couple of words in Italia, COVID.
Yeah.
So
You
there's no conversation these days without that word. But let me say, we are supporting this program of Save the Children now to strengthen the capacity of organizations of persons with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because of COVID, this is in particularly important now, more than ever.
More than ever. Yes. How long have you been staying here in the Philippines, sir?
I arrived in August. Last year.
Oh.
Yes, so I have been in quarantine most of the time.
Okay.
But what is more important is not only my children who are in quarantine and can't leave the house, but also all the other children are in quarantine, can't leave the house and can't go to school. And I think what is particularly difficult, I must imagine, is people, so children with disability being locked in because they cannot attend any school, no support measures, they cannot go to their environment. So they must be in particularly suffer, even if they're within the loving family, but still, it is a difficult situation for them, more than for many others.
Yes, sir. I may say that your project comes on a very fortunate time, on a very unfortunate situation during pandemic. But I know that this will bring more opportunities to our children with disabilities and their families and their communities. And before you probably go on further, may we ask Sheila to introduce your other colleagues, if you won't mind, sir?
Absolutely, go ahead, Sheila.
All right, go ahead, Sheila.
Okay, for our next guest, he is the Chief Executive Officer of Save the Children Philippines. Good afternoon, Attorney Albert Muyot.
Good afternoon, Sheila. Magandang hapon po sa ating mga listeners. Good afternoon also, DJ Ronnie and all of our other partners. Mr. Christoph Wagner, Mr. Emil Gosali, and lahat po dyan. Okay, magandang hapon po.
Maraming salamat po sa panahon, Attorney Albert. Thank you. Next, please, Sheila.
Our third guest is from the Affiliated Network for Social Accountability in East Asia Pacific, or ANSA-EAP. He is the Executive Director, Mr. Emil Gosali. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to meet all of you. I was a bit introduced as somebody from the embassy. I'm not. I was a bit previously in the Asian Development Bank, but got interested in the governance. So I just somehow get involved with the Affiliated Network for Social Accountability this February, and we have had some work with Save the Children Philippines. Very good to meet all of you, Attorney Muyot, Mr. Wagner from EU, and all the colleagues from Save the Children Philippines, as well as I see also somebody from Life Haven, our partner on the field for the persons with disability and children with disability. Good afternoon, Bob.
Okay, Sheila.
Okay, and last but not the least, he is the project coordinator for Project Scope from Save the Children Philippines, Miss Kitty Arce. Hi, Miss Kitty.
Good afternoon, Sheila. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for having all of us here, and we can't wait to share to everyone what Project Scope is about. Thank you.
All right. I hope you won't mind, guys, but since Mr. Wagner has to leave us for this episode in a while, so may I go to him first. Mr. Wagner, you have any statement for this very important date for Project Scope? Would you like to share it with us? Whatever statement you have prepared for us, please.
Yeah, I have some things I would like to say. I mean,
Please go ahead,
don't like reading statements; it's just too boring for everybody. So I just
No
wanted
problem.
to say a few things.
Yeah, please.
First, I wanted to say again appreciation to Save the Children, ANSA-EAP, and also InkluNasyon to bring this on today and to launch this program. Secondly, when we talk about COVID now, everybody talks about the recovery, about the green recovery, or bringing in again economic development, how to open the economy, how open schools, etc. What will be very important in this context is to do an inclusive recovery. Especially this is the case everywhere in the world, but also particularly here in the Philippines. It has to be inclusive and built on the needs and the aspirations of the young, and also the needs and aspiration of people with disability. And I read up the preparation to this program. There are 1 billion people in the world with disability. So it's not a small minority. It's really a lot of us. And so it's very important to keep that in mind when we talk now about the recovery. Therefore, this program is important because it's about empowering people with disability, young people and children, but also taking LGUs to account. I mean, showing that, okay, there are policies and rules in place, but they also need to be implemented, and maybe putting capacities in these LGUs, the administrations, to make it happen. I hope also there will be a link to private sector and business, because in the end, all the recovery will require business growth. So how to make this bridge between the potential of people with disability, how they can contribute also in the workplace, I think is very important as well. So there are many dimensions here, and I'm very interested to follow. As I said at the beginning, I'm a newcomer. I don't know the Philippines so well, but I'm very interested in the subject, and the European Union itself is also very committed. Just may I say that we, the European Commission, just launched a new strategy on the rights of people with disability, which looks very much at the issue of rights, of but also of independent living, of having access and empowering people with disability. So this is a broad strategy within the European Union, and I'm happy that there is also this initiative here today in the Philippines. I'm happy that we can support that. That's all I wanted to say, and again, you can count on us. We will be happy to support this program and also be there maybe in policy dialogue if you need us, and reach out to others, also European member states and others.
Just one quick before you leave us, Mr. Wagner, for this episode. What do you want to see, say 3 years from now, or at the end of the duration of the project? What do you want to see in the communities that you are developing?
Yeah, I think what I would like to see is to have a good communication, so a dialogue between those in power and people in the community, so persons with disability. I would also like to see maybe some of those people with disability to be part of these people in power, so to say, that they are being elected to office, that they are part of the administration, because they have a different take, a different understanding. The same with business. I think there has to be more openness. You have to adjust to the needs, and you have to bring in people's disability. And I think I also particularly want to see reach out to the most vulnerable groups, the poor households, those who have really no funds available, who are really suffering the most, that they find a perspective also, and that they can, especially that there's education, that there's a way for young people and children with disability, there is a way forward, that there's a vision. So kind of an optimism and hope, and also, changing our states of depression now to something much more hopeful and forward-looking. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wagner. And like you here in InkluNasyon, we will also closely monitor the progress of your project for the next 30 months. And again, thank you for your time, and hope to see you in the future episodes.
Thank you very much, DJ Ron. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, again.
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you, sir. And now, continue. May we first see a small video presentation with regards to the project scope. JM, could you roll the video, please?
We are there for children to help them realize their rights. We do what in everyday life. And in emergency situations, we are there for children to help them. We do whatever it takes for children because we believe they deserve a future.
All right, indeed, our children deserves a better future. And to continue our very good discussion for this afternoon, once again, our heartfelt thanks to Mr. Wagner for his presence. And indeed, he promised that he will be back and we can ask him for more of his insights. In the meantime, may I go to Kitty, the project director, project manager of the SCOPE project. Would you like to give us some briefer, Kitty, and would you like to lead us in the discussion of this project, please?
Thank you, Sir Ronel. I'm the project coordinator, and
Coordinator, yeah.
Yes, po. I'm also here with Ms. Rachel and our
Mm.
CEO. So
Mm.
to introduce the project, I'm just gonna share my screen. Can
Please
I
do.
have access po?
Yeah, JM will take care of you for the screen sharing. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Yes. There. My. So this is the whole title of project scope. So the scope is the shortcut, no? And the meaning is strengthening the capacity of organizations of persons with disabilities and other civil society organizations towards effective civil society, local government engagement and improved government accountability for persons with disabilities, especially children in the cities of Parañaque and Taguig and municipality of Pateros. So this project is going to be implemented by Save the Children together with ANSA-EAP and is funded by the European Union. So as you can see in the title, it is what Mr. Wagner envisions, no, of the communities we will be working at, capacitated persons with disabilities engaging with local government. So just a quick background onto why we are doing this project. As mentioned earlier, over 1 billion people around the world have some form of disability. And many of this 1 billion have very severe difficulties. In the Philippines, 1 out of 5 persons with disability in the Philippines is age 0 to 14 years old. So that's a lot. And children with disabilities are among the most marginalized, especially when they are living in poverty. Among the challenges of children with disabilities, and we all know this, bullying, discrimination, we've seen this in our own schools, we've even seen this in our families, outside our homes, even in TV and always in the news. No? So this is 2 challenges that we would like to hopefully address. And then because children with disabilities are bullied, we can expect overprotective parents. But also, overprotective parents may hinder the development of children, especially of those with disabilities. And then some of the challenges they also experience are, they cannot access school or other educational services and even health services. Many of our marginalized children with disabilities have no access to doctors, to habilitation and rehabilitation services. It's not only expensive, but it's also, we have there's not very many specialists that they can go to, and sometimes it takes many months and over a year to just book a date. Persons with disabilities and also children are not informed of the laws and what benefits are available to them. And so they also don't have a voice in making decisions, sometimes not even for themselves, but also in their communities. And with Save the Children, we would want to make children and persons with disabilities active citizens. So the reasons for the challenges that I've mentioned earlier is that existing laws, although there are very many, are not fully implemented. So the needs of the persons with disabilities and also children are not met. We have incomplete data on persons with disabilities as well. So if you visit mga local government units, it's very hard for us to get like a comprehensive data on persons with disabilities. Tapos, duty bearers also lack capacity to implement mandates. So maybe that's the reason, one of the reasons why they cannot, adequately meet the needs of this sector, because they themselves are not aware. So the challenges just continue to pile on. And of course, as mentioned then earlier, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought more challenges to this sector that we're going to help in this project. There was a survey conducted last year by the Council of the Welfare for Children, and the impact of the pandemic has really made life even harder for them. So much more harder to go get health services. There are modular learnings available, but not all children with disabilities can do the modular learning. So it's very difficult.
Mhm.
So the goal of the project is for organizations of persons with disabilities and other CSOs to use social accountability. I will let you know what social accountability later on, so that they can participate in inclusive policy making towards contributing to good governance for people with disabilities, especially children, in the cities of Parañaque, Taguig, and municipality of Pateros. Our project areas, as mentioned then, is Parañaque, Taguig, and Pateros. So why these three areas? It's because Save the Children was here years about 5. We started working in the areas 5 or 6 years ago through our project Kasali, where we built mga community-based inclusive development centers in the barangays, and also trained teachers and non-teachers to how to engage children with disabilities. The implementation period for this project is started this year in January and will last until July 2023. So target beneficiaries. As you can see, we have 472 children with disabilities that we would like to reach, and we'd like to ensure that Save the Children we have guidelines that we call child safeguarding guidelines to ensure that the children who will participate in all our activities are safe. And these guidelines we will also teach to everybody who will be involved in the project, because it is very important for us that children are safe when they participate. So we have 472 children with disabilities and 840 parents and caregivers. We will start to reach them by training 42 children and 42 parents. And they will be grouped into 3, which means 1 per project area. And when we organize them, when we capacitate them, learn their rights and everything else, they will have plans, and from their plans they will reach 430 children more and 798 more parents and caregivers. And of course, we still have 2 groups of target beneficiaries, yung 1,600 persons with disabilities. So through mga existing organizations of persons with disabilities, we will reach 1,510 more. We will organize. I will say more about how we're gonna empower our targets later on. And then, of course, we also have 120 government stakeholders. We cannot involve them in this project. Our project will only be successful if our government stakeholders are if they will also participate. So how will we achieve yung goal? So first, we will empower children and persons with disabilities, their parents, caregivers, and OPDs. So we have mapped the areas and we have met mga organized na OPDs, organized parent groups, but we have yet to meet children's groups. So we will organize children's group and then strengthen them, and then they become our core groups. They will learn about their rights, yung mga laws na relevant sa kanila, yung tungkol sa gender, child protection, and anything that we will find that they need to learn after we make an assessment of their groups. And then through social accountability, they will learn how to demand for inclusive government information and services.
Demand
And then
talaga ha? Demand ha?
demand, yes.
Demand. Very good. Very good. Sige.
And we will also make them active, help them to become active citizens. No? So they will participate in mga local special bodies, mga workshops, mga consultants. Kasi, di ba, I know, Sir Ronel,
Yeah.
believe na nothing about us without
us. Correct.
So we want to make sure that nangyayari yon. And we will teach them, yung mga target beneficiaries, how to advocate and lobby for mga policies na disability inclusive and gender sensitive din.
Right.
So, and of course, we will strengthen local government units. We will teach them how to engage children and persons with disabilities. We will also teach them to apply child rights programming and disability inclusive development in their operation. This just means na gagawin na ang goal, ang gusto kasi parati ng Save the Children is in the center of, you know, everything we do. Dahil, you know, if we make children the center of it, then mag-roll out lang na magiging okay din lahat ng iba pang programa. And what
at saka yung reality, the children are our future.
Yes. And what more kung inclusive pa siya. So we will teach them we will magte-training ang ating LGUs under Life Haven, NORFIL, ng disability inclusive development, because we want to influence them na their programming should be inclusive from the start, that, you know, you don't make another plan just to include yung mga taong may kapansanan. Hindi.
Right.
From the beginning, you know, what I enjoy should also be enjoyed by someone with disability. So yung equitable enjoyment ng benefits and ng laws. And then we will help them also enhance information management systems. This is through Life Haven also. We will improve sana yung database ng mga persons with disabilities, because how can you plan if hindi tama ang ating
data mo?
Diba?
Correct.
And then Save the Children also has an app. It's called I2Class. And we want to enhance this further. It was developed nung kasali. Nakalagay dito yung mga iba't ibang service providers for mga for the needs of children na may disability, paano mag-apply ng PWD ID and so on. So pagagandahin pa natin siya lalo.
Para pupunta sila sa website na yon or sa app, ano ba, i-download yung app?
Yun, mobile app.
I-download yon sa cellphone. Pwede ma-download.
Sa cellphone.
So halimbawa ako may anak na batang bulag, di ko alam kung paano services, pwedeng hanapin dun sa I2Class na yon.
Opo. So kahit ngayon po, pwede nyo siyang i-download. I2Class po yung name. Pero pagagandahin pa po natin yon.
Sige.
And then,
we'll elaborate later. Okay, all in all,
ang hino-hope maabot ng project is yung mabe-benefit nito is 19,000, mahigit 19,000 na persons with disabilities, including children. Ito po ay based
in 3 years. In
2.5 years. Yes, in
2.5 years.
And this is because, di ba, pag na-improve natin yung database, yung services, and all that, yung population ng mga may kapansanan sa Taguig, Pateros, and Parañaque ay makikinabang nung ating mga gagawin.
Very good.
Tapos, gusto lang din namin i-share na ang project scope ay supported also by Save the Children Sweden. Sila po yung mag-a-advise sa amin pagdating sa magbibigay ng advice tungkol sa children with disability. Yung director po kasi yung pinaka-lead ng for children with disabilities sa SAVE ay also based sa Sweden.
Okay.
Tapos, ito yung theory of change ng Save the Children. So, para lang makita nyo na kung paano ginagawa ng Save the Children na magkaroon ng change. So, ito yung pagiging boses or pagbibigay ng boses sa mga bata. Yung pagiging innovators, di ba? yung makaisip ng mga panibagong paraan kung paano ma-access ng mga batang may kapansanan, yung ating mga government units. Tapos yung achieve results at scale. So ito yung paggawa ng mga pag-institutionalize ng mga participation mechanisms. No? Kailangan natin ma-ensure na lahat represented sa local special bodies. For example, kailangan, di ba sa papel nakasulat yan, dapat may representative from
Right.
the vulnerable sectors. But does it happen? Hindi po parate. So yan po yung ating mga gagawin. And yung pagprograma na inclusive, kailangan po yan magawa. And ang Save the Children, hindi niya magagawa lahat ito kung walang partnerships. Kung kaya kasama natin ang ANSA, si Life Haven, NORFIL, at yung mga government stakeholders, at yung mga local na CSOs din po.
Okay. Now, can I go? Yes, please. Please go ahead, ma'am. Sorry.
Yes. Ito naman parang to just introduce briefly yung ANSA, yung Affiliated Network for Social Accountability in East Asia and Pacific. We've been working with them since 2015, and sila yung kinukonsider namin na expert in social accountability.
Okay, so may I now call Mr. Guzali further elaborate that introduction of yours. Mr. Guzali would like to talk about ANSA and your role in this very worthy endeavor. Go ahead, please. Mr. Guzali? Moy.
Sir Ronil?
Nawala ba si Mr. Guzali? Nawala siya?
Ituloy ko na lang dito.
Please, sige. While we're waiting for Mr. Guzali, please continue, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay,
So yun.
Sorry.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Magandang hapon po.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It is good that our talk comes exactly after Kitty, because I listened to Kitty and essentially our remarks today is sort of matching or building upon what Kitty has sort of highlighted. But before I start, probably I forgot to acknowledge probably if somebody from NORFIL Foundation is here. I try to also introduce our colleague, maybe for the benefit of those who are not involved in the project earlier. They are 5 people, course learning staff that's working for the component for social accountability and learning. That is Professor Adele Briones and 4 learning officer Fam Listana, Christine Cruz, Paul Villanueva, and Debbie Bartolo. Debbie Bartolo probably engaged as a consultant. We also, as on the front office, me and the finance officer support this project. So our talk sort of surrounding the topic that specifically on the project is covering 2 areas. One is we like to talk a little more about social accountability. And then the other thing is a bit on the relation between how social accountability evolves essentially per our experience, but also parallel with Save the Children, how it evolved to include more and more sort of subgroups and citizenship.
Okay.
So a bit more about social accountability and ANSA. ANSA basically started as a program of School of Government in Ateneo in 2008. That is actually funded first by World Bank. The original task is for networking and convening whoever parties that interested in social accountability. One common question that's arise, although the social accountability is mentioned, it's worth sort of highlighting is that what is social accountability? The way I like to explain this is it is actually an extension of a citizen participation movement. Citizen participation in turn is a key to governance and functioning of good democracy. one key feature that is social accountability is it anchors participation, meaning citizen and government conversation around results. So it's focused on results and anchored on continuing monitoring. So citizen, when it's dialoguing with government, would remember what the priorities citizens are looking for, what are the priorities, and secondly, how progress, if any, in priority areas are discussed and monitored. This type of engagement actually is very relevant if you think about it in a present day environment and political situation or processes. Because attention and conversation about major issues are often overshadowed in many countries by side issues, scandal, and distractions. So a method of anchoring people to things that is agreed as major issues are important. So that's one area on social accountability. Now, realizing the potential for social accountability, we also reflect on how our work has evolved throughout the years. So when we start the project, actually, ANSA works mainly focus on larger citizen groups. These are mainly students and multi-stakeholder beneficiaries. Our big project before was called Check My School. It is covering Philippine-wide 1,000 schools and citizen participatory audit, which is working with Commission on Audit. So from it is we start with a larger group. We intend to continue that, but over time, what we have also experienced is we become working more on focus group. One of that is the poorest of the poor groups under what we call a group called SNPP, Samahang Nagkakaisang Pantawid Pamilya. I guess the rough translation is that the Association of Pantawid for these families.
Yeah.
And
But sir, is this your first time to work with the sector, with the persons with disability sector? Using your format of social accountability, sir.
Correct. In terms
First
of
time.
some projects, essentially in developing and preparing for this project, we drew inventory in terms of our past experience. What we found is in Check My School, they are subgroup of disabled students, essentially being engaged in a focus group, mainly to discuss about their physical limitation and issues, and access to school, transport to school.
All right.
But
have you also come across with the parallel report submitted by the Philippine Coalition on UNCRPD to the International Committee on the UNCRPD?
I am not sure on that aspect. Basically,
I hope your partners from Life Haven will give you the opportunity to browse over that report, because that's full of some issues and concerns of Filipinos with disabilities. Your approach, social accountability, is one of the appropriate method to held our government, not to held, but to open the eyes of the government officials that they're accountable to the sector. It's a very good way of gatekeeping, Mr. Gozali.
Yeah.
So please take a look at that, sir.
Yeah, that's essentially the last slide of Kitty.
Okay.
Is one thing that we like to highlight is that this process for Save the Children, as well as for ANSA, who specialize in social accountability, is essentially a process of learning. because with Save the Children,
Mm-mm.
we handle also the youth, kids in charge, and related project.
Right.
In that part, Adele is indicating and our staff indicating that, of course, there is a discussion among the youth about the disabled children, not necessarily adults, but children. But so this project essentially is an opportunity for us who are learning on governance to enter or be familiar more
Mhm.
with
Oh,
disabled persons.
Yeah,
And
yes, on my personal end, I'm very excited, no? That transformation that you will create working with persons with disabilities, with learners with disabilities. We call our children not special children, but learners with disabilities. Because we're telling the government that these children, they're not special children. They're children just like your children who happens to have their disabilities. No, so they are not stop calling them special children. They are learners with disabilities. That's why when we demand for braille, audio material, sign language interpretation, that's just normal because that's what the learners with disabilities needs, right?
yeah,
Am I correct, sir?
yeah. Essentially, it is very good that our staff, I guess 1 week already, has a training on inclusion, inclusion and sensitizing to some extent the issues on how to engage. I see also, if we are talking about what is rights programming, then at least we understand pick up where the work with from NORFIL.
NORFIL is very good at that. This sir, very good.
And continue that, yeah. So anyway, just to close, I think.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, we think this launch is a start. So there's many opportunities to engage, and hopefully we continue our talk, our learnings, mutual support, so that we reach our benefit and sustain benefits. Thank you. Thanks.
Mr. Guzali, hope to hear more from you, and I'm very much interested on your social accountability platform. Please don't go yet. We'll have some questions from our colleagues later on. Please, you stay. All right, Sir Albert, you're formerly from DepEd, correct, sir? Sir Albert?
Yes, DJ Ronnie, that's correct. I was formerly Undersecretary of...
Formerly Undersecretary, yes. And how do you feel? How do you feel now that these projects are coming up now, and how do you think they will reinforce your previous efforts at the Department of Education?
Well, I think this is very important in the sense that it really provides for the evidence that indeed children, all children, including children with disabilities,
yes, sir,
can really play a very important role in the crafting of local and national policies, and can really influence decision-making at all levels. DJ Ronnie, I just want to share the good news that the Senate of the Philippines has already approved the on second reading the bill on inclusive education. So that really is a step forward.
Thank you for working with us on that bill, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, I mean we've been lobbying it. We've been lobbying for the bill for quite some time, and we're very thankful. We thank Senator Gatchalian for the effort in shepherding the passage of the bill, and we hope that it can become a law very, very soon. So by the soonest possible time.
Yeah, and I hope that DepEd will be open also in creating a Bureau of Inclusive Education, you know, because it will really envelope all the aspirations of the advocates and, of course, the future learners with disabilities who will graduate from not from special education, but from inclusive education. Yes, sir.
Yes, and I also yes, DJ Ron, and also hope that the funding for the bill, once it becomes law, can also be made readily available. We all know that without we all know that without the funding support, I mean, whatever we have provided for in the law,
Yes.
will not come into fruition. So
Yeah.
importante talaga yung funding dito.
Amen to that, sir. Before medyo lumalayo, but may I go back to your very good launching today? And what will be your role in this project scope, sir?
Well, Save the Children really plays more of a coordinative role. As Kitty explained earlier, I mean, we do not do the implementation ourselves, but we work through our partners. And our partner for this project is ANSA. And we feel that that's really the best way to help not only the beneficiary communities, but also to strengthen CSOs in the Philippines. We think that the future really is to engage all sectors, especially CSOs, in development work. And we feel that there is still a long way to go. Marami po tayong kailangan gawin, but with the initiatives that we have launched with the support of the European Union, I mean, this can really go a long way.
Right. In your experience in PepEd and other civic works, what do you think in particular should be strengthened in the organizations of parents with disabilities, of persons with disabilities? Where do you think you should concentrate in empowering them? One of your objectives is to empower them. Other programs are saying the same, but being one of the helm of who are going to implement this, in what areas are going to empower them?
Well, first of all, we need to organize the sector. And as mentioned earlier, we have to make everyone in the sector know what their rights are. Kanina, Kitty used the word demand, and you like the word demand. Yes, but for us to demand, we must know what our rights are. Di ba, DJ Ronnie?
Hopefully your colleague in DepEd would also like the word demand.
No, we're all used to
just teasing you, sir. Go ahead, please.
As explained by Emil earlier, I mean, really, the key here really is yung citizenship, and part of citizenship really is demanding accountability from government. But to demand accountability, okay, we need to know our rights. But our knowledge of our rights, our understanding thereof, really provide us with the basis for demanding.
Yeah, but you see, in my talk, sir, I always tell the sector that if you demand your right, if you demand one right, it is coupled with 3 responsibilities. So we must all be responsible. We must all be responsible right holders.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes, I fully agree with that.
Yes. All right, Kitty, you said earlier that you have mapped the area. Can you give us more or less the information or the things you can share in the mapping that you have done in Pateros, Taguig, and Parañaque? For example, Taguig is very proud of their PIDAO office, and they say that they have 12 million annual budget for PIDAO. Have you felt this in the 5 years that you have been there?
Yes, so Taguig, from what we from our experience in the field, are very active. Yung PIDAO nila is very active, and they're very proud of yung mga organizations nila, yung mga asosasyon ng may kapansanan na per barangay meron. And they have plans also with NORFIL to organize yung parents ng children with autism and Down syndrome. So we said now we would like to be in dun sa plano nilang yon, so we can all work together. Tapos it's the same situation in Pateros and Parañaque. Meron na silang lahat tig-isang asosasyon ng may kapansanan per barangay. But we also saw na maraming bata na may disability ang invisible pa rin sa data, kasi parang masyadong konti yata to kung i-compare natin dapat sa di ba yung 15% na population ng isang lugar ay may kapansanan. So maraming invisible. So we're gonna try to look for them. So mananawagan din kami doon sa kung may nanonood na mga taga Parañaque, Pateros, and Taguig, kung interesado po kayo maging bahagi ng aming project, mag-message po kayo sa InkluNasyon ng inyong name, contact number, tapos magko-connect din po kami sa inyo. At kung hindi naman kayo mula sa tatlong areas na yon, we will be happy to share yung mga matututunan namin sa project na ito. At for sure, may mga activities na magiging open sa lahat.
Opo. Ma'am, pero sa ngayon po, as we speak, ano ho, for example, in Taguig, how many persons with disabilities it's recorded so far? Taguig, Parañaque, and there was the other one? Pateros.
And Taguig.
Yes.
So,
Give us an idea,
wala
please.
kaming binigay, wala pa silang binigay na actual number sa totoo lang.
Wala pa. Opo.
So yun.
Okay, so it's one of the activities to follow in the coming days.
Ongoing po yung mapping.
Ongoing yung mapping. And in the 5 years of experience you've had before, what are the common problems you saw in the, well, aside from you have mentioned bullying and all, but wait, speaking of bullying, did you know that a few children with disabilities are bullies themselves? Did you know that? Because there are a few of children with disabilities who are using their disability to take advantage of, say, their siblings, in terms of getting more ice cream than their sister, and because of the parent is somewhat sympathetic to them, they're taking advantage of. Somewhat they become bullies as well. But anyway, to my question, what are your discoveries that made you decide that these 3 areas is worth your 2.5 months of 2.5 years of investment?
It's because of yung mga accomplishments then from yung kasali na project. So we know na may willingness yung mga parents doon at saka yung mga organization, and yung sa pakikipag-ugnayan namin ngayon dun sa mga asosasyon, sa federation ng mga persons with disability, nakita namin na they're excited and eager to learn na kahit may pandemic, kahit online, diba, recognize nila na may kulang sa kanila na kailangan nilang lumakas pa. So yun po yung aking observation.
Yeah. Po ng tanong ko po, palagay po ninyo sa inyong simpleng so far yung medyo payak na pagtingin sa mga areas na ito, saan po sila dapat palakasin? Sabi po ni Sir Albert kanina, you have to empower them in the organization. Kayo po, ma'am, bilang community worker and immersed in the situation, which areas of concern do you think will be prioritized by this program?
First, yung organization itself, diba? Tama ba yung mission vision nila? Nakaangkla ba sa kanilang goal nila? Diba?
Basic as that, ha?
Yes po, we will go as deep as that, and we will find out ano yung lakas nila, kung meron silang mga connections. Di ba na-mention nyo rin kanina yung importance ng pagkakaroon ng partnerships with mga service providers. So we will hopefully teach them also how to do that. Paano ba ako, diba? And kailangan ma-realize din nila na hindi naman lahat ng bagay free. So baka pwedeng discount. May understanding. So may paano magkakaroon ng MOU between a service provider and their organizations, or paano yung understanding ng organization nila at ng LGU na dapat nakaka-participate sila sa diba, sa DRR Council, for example, sa Children's Council, LCPC, mga ganyan.
Yeah, and Mr. Gusali, this is what accountability is, right?
Yeah.
Would you like to elaborate further on the tone of how do you, or how will you help them? I mean, the youth and your target audience using the social accountability platform, sir.
Yes. The way we work actually, essentially, we learn by doing also a little bit there, because there is a standard method. We employ a lot for students. And lately, for the youth group, they are under Kids in Charge. It is modified slightly and it's called Child-Centered Social Accountability Modules. Yeah. But for the what they call children and adults with disability, we look to modify it a little more to understand, yeah? Because the basic approach to social accountability, like all participation, basically is to identify key concerns and try to listen without assuming, because like me, I try to assume things, which is actually one has to be disciplined not to assume things,
Right,
and
right,
listen carefully, listen to the
right.
adult, because our experience is that people do not talk in the first instance very
Oh,
clearly,
yeah,
or
correct,
no,
correct.
but they do not know. But basically, they need to crystallize their thoughts, and there are differences between children with disability among themselves, and so it has to be crystallized a little bit before they have a bit of confidence to constructively talk to LGU. I guess in this case it's LGU organization, barangay captain. I do not know barangay. So
Right,
essentially,
right,
to
right.
talk without what is without getting too what is it called, confrontational.
All right.
And then highlight the frustration. Maybe I
Mm-mm.
think the word demand is a bit. It has to be. It
Soften a
has to
little
be
bit.
gauged. It has to be
Okay.
gauged,
All
but
right, all right.
they're allowed to get angry sometimes, because otherwise, sometimes the authority doesn't
Right,
listen.
right. That's why I'm teasing Sir Albert earlier. But anyway, Albert, um, very, very, very distinct. The dynamics in the Philippines, as far as local government dynamics is concerned, it's very distinct from others. Now, how do you plan to blend this with your approach so that the culture that you have, trying to, sort of create a transformation in how the LGUs are looking their constituents with disabilities. How would you plan to do this in the next
Okay.
2.5 years, please?
Well, 2 points, DJ Ronnie. The
Yes,
first
sir.
point is that in the next 2.5 years, in these 3 local governments, which are very receptive, we hope to develop the model. Okay, develop the model of engagement between local
Okay.
governments and persons with disabilities, especially
Okay.
children with disabilities,
Okay.
so that it's something that we can sell to other local governments. So that's the first point. The second point is yung sabi mo, peculiarities of
Yes, sir.
Philippine local governments.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
Local governance in the Philippines is very personal. So in this case, we really have to connect to the siguro yung mga emotions at saka
Tama
those
po. Tama po.
experiences ng
Opo,
ating
opo.
mga local political leaders.
Opo.
I'm sure that all of them in their families, okay, have
Opo.
members who have disabilities, and we need to connect, okay, the experience that they've had with what we are doing, so that they can fully understand, they can appreciate, and that's something that they can value. Minsan kasi nakakalimutan natin na na local governments are
Tama.
made up of human beings, di ba?
Correct. And pressures are mounting in the LGUs as well. Sir, bago ka umalis, kasi ikaw alam ko busy ka rin, babalik ka in the future, sir.
Yes, DJ Ron.
Sir, isa pa ho, lapit na sir ang eleksyon. Kailan naman nag-uusap? Huwag ka masyado maingay. Kailan naman nag-uusap? Malapit na ang eleksyon. Of course, ayaw nyo man o hindi, maapektuhan kayo niyan. How do you think will it affect the approaches that you will be implementing in the coming political months, so to speak?
Well, in the next year, DJ Ronnie, we want to develop, we want to help children develop their children's agenda that we are going to bring to all of the prospective candidates at the national and local level. Para hindi nila makalimutan na napaka-importante yung kung yung mga concerns at issues ng mga bata. So part of our programming for the rest of this year at saka the first part of next year is really yung na buuin ang children's agenda, okay? Bring it to the candidates and okay, make them pledge. Okay?
Mm.
Kung ano ba talaga magagawa nila para sa mga bata. And if they win,
Edge talaga, ha?
singilin sila para dito.
Sige,
Okay,
ha?
sa mga pangako nila. I
Oo.
think that's very important.
Okay. And now your message muna for us kasi sa ayaw mo man medyo, alam kong gusto mo magstay pero you have other appointments. But please inspire us this afternoon, Attorney Albert, sir.
Well, thank you, DJ Ronnie. Save the Children has been in existence for 102 years worldwide. And in the
Kasi tanda
Philippines,
pala ni June Bernardino yan. Oo.
nako, malapit-lapit na.
Joke lang.
Pero pagdating
Sige po.
naman sa Pilipinas, we've been here for 40 years.
Okay.
So this is really a very opportune time na sa 40-year celebration natin, where the thrust of our program really is to make sure that despite the pandemic, children are protected. Na ito pang napili natin na magandang project, itong Project Scope, that focuses on ensuring that even during COVID, children with disabilities are not only protected, but are also empowered. Okay, ito yung perfect opportunity para talagang paigtingin pa natin talaga yung mga issues and concerns at tulungan natin na yung mga pamilya at mga bata mismo ang magdala ng mga issues at concerns na to doon sa mga namumuno, okay, at doon sa mga accountable, okay, especially for the services at saka yung mga karapatan ng mga bata. So I hope that we fully support itong Project Scope. Okay, it's not just going to end with the election. We're going to continue it. Okay, even after that for the next 2.5 years, and we want to show everyone that all children have a voice. Okay, all children, kasama lahat, even children with disabilities, and that this voice needs to be listened to by our leaders. So,
very good.
Salamat.
Albert, promise babalik ka, ha? Talaga.
Yes.
I mean, marami tayong magandang pwedeng pagpulungan dyan, ha? At lalo na yung naging experience mo sa DepEd, and alam ko ang dami mong may transfer sa mga ito na learnings mo from there, especially in dealing with learners with disabilities. Na ang tawag pa rin ninyo hanggang ngayon sa DepEd ay special children. So hopefully, pagkatapos ng bill na to, matapos na yung special. Sabi ko, Sir Albert, yung special na yan, sa pizza lang yan, tsaka sa halo-halo.
Yeah, so
never use in children or in learners. No po? Thank you, Sir Albert.
Sige, maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Nice meeting to you, Sir Albert.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Later po, after our short video again, we will try to, ano matawag dito? Ito po yung makikichismis kay Kitty. Ano ba yung children's agenda na isusulong nila? Kunti lang, Kitty, mamaya, ha? Of course, to Mr. Guzali, we will also ask him about his agenda on social accountability. But in the meantime, we have to watch this video. AM, please.
In the last 40 years, Save the Children Philippines' life-saving work for and with children has helped ensure that they learn, survive, and are protected every day and at times of crisis.
With the support of our donors and partners, we have been able to uphold and protect children's rights through our integrated programming and advocacy work.
The rights of children have always been at the core of everything we do. We remain determined to amplify the voices of children and ensure that they are listened to.
As Save the Children marks its 40th year in the Philippines, we are relying on your continued support so that together we can make a lasting difference in the lives of more children. Thank you.
Okay, nako. Sabi nga, Miss Kitty, life begins at 40 daw. And what more appropriate year to start than this year? So, Miss Kitty, if you can give us some bird's eye view of the agenda that you're going to push the children with disabilities of Pateros, Taguig, and Parana Q. Tama ba? Parana Q nga ba?
Rana Q, tama
Yeah,
po.
Parana Q and Taguig and Pateros. Please.
DJ Ronnie, well, hindi ko pa masabi kung ano yung nasa agenda ng children sa ngayon ng Paranaque,
lang,
Taguig at Paranaque dahil hindi pa namin sila na-consult. So, lahat po ito dumadaan sa proseso, so kailangan namin sila i-consult. Ito yung parang paraan din, parang social accountability rin, yung panimula na part, di ba? So, i-identify nila themselves yung ano yung issues nila. Kasi pwede ako magsabi ng issue nila na maaaring hindi pala issue sa mga bata yon.
Nga, ano bang mga assumptions mo? Bigyan mo nga ako ng idea ng mga assumptions mo ngayon. Kunti lang.
Dahil assumptionista ako, bibigyan ko.
Yan. Sige. Oo.
Well, usually ang lumalabas na issues naman po is yun nga, alam naman natin lahat yung mahirap mag-access sa mga educational services, sa therapy, sa habilitation and rehab, 'di ba po? Dahil
isa yun sa assumption mo. Isa sa assumption mo 'yon.
Oo, assumption ko 'yan.
Assumption mo 'yan.
Siyempre, hihintayin natin yung
totoo nangyayari. Tama.
Although lumabas naman po 'yan sa national survey na ginawa nung last year, 'di ba? Yung tungkol sa impact ng COVID sa children with disabilities. Pero syempre, ayokong pangunahan din po kung ano yung magiging issues ng mga bata sa Paranaque, Pateros, and Taguig. Naisip ko nga rin po, baka it could be as simple as, they want their right to privacy, di ba? Dahil syempre yung mga magulang na nagiging protective or nag-aalaga na normal. Kahit ako, may anak ako, minsan guilty siguro ako na na-invade ko yung privacy ng anak ko. Mas lalo pa siguro kung may disability yung bata dahil talagang, di ba, minamando nung magulang yung kanyang buhay. So, it could be as simple as that po eh. So, pero as a parent na assumptionista, siguro pwede rin, assumption ko is may issues din sa health, hindi po ba yung kawalan ng assistive devices. So baka dapat mabigyan, kunyari, kung ang mode of learning ng batang may kapansanan ay online, so dapat mabigyan din sila ng gadgets, for example. Or kung hindi man mabigyan nga ng free, kasi walang free sa mundo, yung may discount, di ba? Meron naman mga kumpanyang ganyan na kung may agreement ang isang organization with them na pwede sila magbigay at a reasonable price. Yung mga ganong partnerships. And also, for instance,
alam mo, gusto ko yan. Nung isang beses dito sa Batangas, inopen namin yung gadgets, assistive devices. No? Alam mo, sabi ng governor, pambihira naman kayo, bibigyan na nga kayo ng cellphone, abusado pa kayo. Gusto nyo pa iPhone? Eh, siyempre kasi yung iPhone, isa sa pinaka-appropriate para sa mga bulag.
Diba? Because natutunan ko rin yan doon sa ATIEB namin na training.
Oo, tapos sasabihin ng isang gobernador, abusado raw ang mga bulag na humihingi ng iPhone. Eh, kung sa kaya bulagin namin, Oo. Hindi, napakasama sa isang politiko na ang kanyang assumption, kanyang kababayang may kapansanan ay abusado pag humihingi ng gamit na angkop sa kanya. So how do you plan to, paano nyo balak ipaintindi sa mga politiko na ang hihingi ninyong assistive devices, kaya nga ang tawag assistive devices ay para mas umunlad ang taong may kapansanan sa Taguig, Pateros at Paranaque. Ma'am.
Yun po, yung pagturo sa kanila rin ng proseso ng social accountability, I think will be very important kasi it will let them know na, di ba, kailangan nila maging open. So babalik tayo ulit sa consultation na kahit na kailangan malaman nila ano yung needs ba talaga ng mga taong may kapansanan para makapag-aral, para makapunta sa simbahan o kung ano man, di ba? Ano mang pangangailangan. Hindi naman kasi pare-pareho ng pangangailangan ng lahat. So kaya meron din, for example, children's rights kasi ang children may ibang, di ba, may human rights na naman ba't kailangan pa children's rights? Kasi may ibang needs yung bata. So same with children with disability, may iba rin silang needs. So kaya napaka-important DJ Ronnie yung consultation. So kaya isa rin sa gagawin ng project ay yung turuan yung LGU makipag-engage sa persons and children with disability.
At saka sabi mo, tatandaan niyo ho, minsan lang sila bata.
Minsan
Diba?
lang bata.
Minsan sila bata. All right, Mr. Gozali, sir. Wow, you are going to hone children to be socially accountable. How will you teach to children with disabilities that yes, they are demanding accountability, but how will you teach them to be responsible and accountable themselves, sir?
Well, if I understand, well, in terms of our coming work, I think it's a bit in line what Kitty has mentioned, which is we essentially there's two aspects. You are right. In terms of social accountability, is explaining accountability of the leaders of communities and government, as well as probably not accountabilities, but the way or responsibility of how citizens engage with the government. So essentially, in terms of discussion with the children, we essentially try to have issues identification, like Kitty is saying that, interesting issues like privacy is there, so they are highlighting that. So the one that we are familiar with other cases is something related to access to transport, to access to moving facilities. One thing that in terms of what is this called? Talking about issues, we do not want obviously some discussion will be a bit like, what is this called? A support session, as a psychological support session. But at the end, we try to narrow down the conversation to who we can target the what is this priorities to. If we are talking about mayor of the head of social department in the cities, so then maybe can do what? Meaning what facilities? Maybe in the COVID area, COVID times, areas where maybe people do not have a space at home, can have more space provided by LGUs, this kind of thing, facility. The other one is probably access. There's a continuing issue about access to field health. I do not know if they raised it before, during this project, but we have to look at that. So that is something that we have to, and the other thing that, so just to continue the cycle a little bit on this social accountability.
Yes, please.
The main thing is that after it's all clear, we identify priority issues. The leaders has to essentially show indication that they are willing to accept issues as something that has to be addressed. We are not very clear, but essentially there has to be a bit of acceptance. And hopefully there's action plan for a next cycle. So the problem with social accountability and citizen involvement, it is what is this called? A rotating cycle. And it needs to be sustained eventually, because the culture of this interaction is developing in 2-3 years usually. Yes, sir. So it needs to be sustained. Sorry,
Okay.
You are, yeah.
No problem, sir. And we understand your concept. And as I've said earlier, I am very excited what transformation you will bring to these communities. And how long are you planning to update InkluNasyon of the progress of your work in these 3 areas in Metro Manila, Mr. Gozali?
Could you repeat again? How long?
How often do you want to update this program, this forum of the developments or the progress that you're making? Is,
I will
as
help.
it,
I will help
ah,
Sir Emil to
sige.
answer that question.
Did I put him in the spot? Ano?
The detail has to be with
Yeah.
Okay.
with the initial
Um,
assessment. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but,
we
but
would
I
love
see.
Go
to.
ahead, Kitty. Yeah.
Yes po. We would love to guest again DJ Ronnie siguro sa year end, no, para malaman mo ano nang nangyari so far.
Oh,
Tapos,
well, actually, alam mo, yan ang kwan eh. That's why InkluNasyon is here to be one of your vehicles in informing, inspiring, educating our audience.
yes po. And
Okay.
you'll also be, I believe na yung network nyo a lot of the organizations in your network will also be involved. Kasi nga, di ba, nothing about you without you. So,
We would love to be with you in this journey of yours in these three thickly populated areas, because it's what's interests me is the fact that you're doing this in an urban setting, no, wherein almost everything, according to people who are looking outside, persons with disabilities in Metro Manila are luckiest compared with the persons with disabilities in the rural areas, because they have access to services. They have access to services. They thought, no? But mind you, will be surprised that in some cases, the persons with disabilities in the rural areas is more, shall we say, attended to than persons with disabilities in the national capital region. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
That's one of our findings later on. Okay. Maybe in our remaining time, maybe we could ask some members of the InkluNasyon. Maybe Doc June would like to share some insights and questions. If you have questions or insights that you would like to share in this very historic day of launching Project Scope. Doc June, what are your thoughts that you would like to share with us?
So good afternoon. Do I need to open my camera? Ron. Wait,
Yes, because,
I'm just asking
because
my
I can see you.
assistant. Ron. Ron. Yan. Good afternoon, everybody. Now my camera is open. Everybody can see me.
Yes, I can see you.
First, I would like to express the appreciation of at least our organization like Haven and the members of the Philippine Coalition on the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And maybe it would be safe also that the sector really appreciates the effort of Save the Children, ANSA, EU also, for looking at these issues and concerns of capacitating, empowerment of persons and children with disabilities. So we will be able to do the advocacy ourselves, not just ourselves alone, with support of everybody else.
Of course.
Of course. So we'd like to express our appreciation. And this project really would mean a lot to children and adults with disabilities in the area, in the project areas of the scope. And what else? So insight is a very good step. No? But it's not a reservation, but the usual challenge is we start things, but the follow-through, sometimes it's not there. The exit plan, maybe we should review. We should look at the exit plan because most of the time, there are projects, and after the project implementation period, organizations just leave and look for another site, look for problems, but not really going back to the area of implementation and document that improvement, that change, or that need for extending the empowerment or capacity building activity, and the need for continuing support. But a good part of this project scope is capacitating empowerment of persons with disabilities in the area, children with disabilities in the area, to do the advocacy themselves, okay, to work with the government, engage the government, so there will be sustainability. And I hope our local officials the local government units would be open to this idea of children with disabilities, persons with disabilities, immersed in governance. Not just token presence, not just picture consultation, but really listening to the voices of people with disabilities. And back to you, DJ Ron.
Thank you, sir. Having mentioned those points, may I invite your attention to the experience of the National Council on Disability Affairs on their built environment project at the Negros, the OPOL project, that when the mayor who really espoused the project lost in the election, that the entire project also gone with him. So is the experience of Kampi, Katipunan ng May Kapansanan sa Pilipinas Incorporated. They have received very generous, abundant support from foreign funding, but they fail miserably to come up with a good transition plan, so that when the funding is gone, the project gone with them as well. So we hope that this project scope will not suffer the same. So I hope as early as now you'll consider their experience and learn from them, and so that the efforts that you'll be exerting here will not be in vain. No. Now, hopefully you will consider those points. Now, may I call on Ranil? Mr. Sorongon is an advocate of children's rights, and his foundation is also one of the forefronts of this effort. So, Ranil, what's your take on this afternoon's launching of Project Scope in InkluNasyon, sir?
DJ Ron, I think Sir Ronil, are you still there?
Karanil is not here. All right.
Got disconnected. Sorry.
Si Miss Celia is there. Are you there, Miss Celia?
Okay.
Wala rin si Miss Celia?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh yeah, go ahead, ma'am. What's your take on this afternoon's launching of Project Scope of Save the Children and the rest of the sector?
This is very good, and I hope if it works, we can replicate the model in other communities, particularly those in the rural areas. Because as you said, these are the places where our persons with disabilities, particularly children and youth, who are the most neglected groups, are residing. So I hope we can all get together and we can pull together the CSOs to help in this venture. Thank you.
We received any questions, observations from the audience? None so far. You have questions?
Caronel,
oh yeah, Miss Mitch. Before your question, Miss Mitch, from INET Philippines. Also, one of the concern is the children. What's your thoughts after you're hearing a very good explanations from our resource speakers this afternoon? Your thoughts, please.
Yes po, Caronel, gaya po nung sinabi ng ating mga leaders from PCU and CRPD, Doc June, Miss Celia, at ikaw rin, we welcome this project of Save the Children and ANSA. Kailangan talagang i-empower yung mga key stakeholders sa pagdedemand talaga ng accountability sa ating gobyerno. And that is what we have been doing also in our coalition in Education Network Philippines. The children's agenda is a good idea also. It should really come from the children themselves. Kaya kanina, I know the feeling of Kitty, when she was hesitant to, kasi baka mapangunahan niya yung nais ng mga bata, so it's the same, with the other comments of our leaders. Siguro ituloy ko na, This is from the chat box, but maybe this comes from some of our viewers, no? Ito po yung tanong, what are some of the perceived immediate and long-term impacts of scope to children? Is there an opportunity for the project to expand and cover larger areas to help more children with disabilities? And also, how can people, the government, private sector, and other key stakeholders support scope project? So, yun po. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Kitty, would you like to address those points?
Yes. Yes po. Yung purpose na nakikita namin na immediate and long-term impact nitong scope ay yung once we empower yung mga organizations of persons with disabilities. Kasi ngayon pa lang kita naman namin na hungry sila for knowledge and to become stronger and to have a voice. Then, tapos dahil magpo-programa rin sila, dadalhin nila yung mga issues ng mga bata. At the same time, dadalhin nila to sa pag-lobby nila sa LGU at kung saan mang platform. Then makikita natin yung impact nito sa kabataan. Tapos yung immediate siguro na impact, I am hoping na yung mga children natin, diba? Kasi hindi naman yung mga adult na persons with disability, katulad nyo, nila Doc June, ganyan, empowered na kayo eh. So sana yung mga bata maging katulad nyo din, nila Miss Sheila at yung iba pa namin nakatrabaho, yung hindi sila mawalan ng hope, diba? Makita nila kung ano yung possibilities. So yun yung at least sana masimulan from this project pa lang na meron silang something to look forward to.
Right.
How can people, the government, private sector, and key stakeholders support yung project? I think yung isang enabling na condition na para gumana yung social accountability is openness. Diba? Yung openness ng government, pati ng private sector to help, to engage. Pati yung, tsaka yung kahit normal, yung karaniwan na citizen, diba? May kapansanan o wala. Maging open sila dun sa new learnings. Kumbaga kami sa Save the Children, we had to unlearn so many things nung tinuruan kami ng Life Haven about disability inclusion. Tapos pagdating sa paggawa lang ng accessible documents, ang dami namin kinailangan na matutunan. Pero nandun lang na sa harapan namin yung mga tools na pwede naman namin nagamit noon pa man, pero ngayon lang namin na gamit, di ba? So sayang. So yun yung gusto rin natin maparating sa iba na, di ba, gamitin natin yung available resources, then we can already have an inclusive nation na InkluNasyon.
Mr. Gozali, if I may address one of the vision of Mr. Wagner earlier, he told us that he wants the involvement of private sector and business sector. How do you think this can happen in this project in terms of? Yes, Mr. Gozali?
Yes, yeah, that is actually quite a good thought. This relate a little bit to what June and Mitzi has raised, and Kitty answered a little bit. But essentially, I also have it's about what is it called? Exit or continuation. Because I have also seen many projects come and go. Essentially, we are thankful for donors. Right? In this case, taxpayer from Europe is paying and helping with the generous help. A segment of our population to get to help. Right? So to essentially continue this is requires some careful, basically readiness. Yeah, in a sense, this discussion usually do not start at the launch, but closer to the end of the project. And this is good to be talked at the launch. Yeah. So I think, Ronel, when we run this project, our team should try to look through the corporation if they are willing to support at least in terms of what they call networking for groups to talk about, because the network is important and it's not very expensive, to continue to talk after the project so that the network doesn't disintegrate. Yeah. Because what happens, what happened on many of the social accountability projects, there's a lot of funding in the beginning. So there's a lot of people, a lot of materials is built up. But afterwards, actually to continue, it doesn't take that much money. But the problem is people has to continue to gather, and the conveners need some funding. So that one basically a sustainability strategy. I guess that's what Kitty is saying. Sustainability strategy will have to be figured out. It's very good. June and the Mrs. are raising it now. So basically, that has to be talked about while we still have this European funds.
Correct, sir. Yeah, and thank you very much and for your time, Mr. Guzali. Any final thoughts for our audience, please? Do you have any final thoughts for us this afternoon, sir?
So last messages, DJ Ron, right?
Yeah, right.
So from Mr. Guzali, then from Miss Kitty, then we'll close the session.
No, we should extend this talks. A very interesting talks. Yeah. No, yun na sa meeting earlier.
Maybe later over Battle of something.
Wow. All right, Mr. Guzali, your final message, please, for this episode. For this episode.
I don't have too much. Basically, the important thing is we maintain communication. The effort is essentially, this is actually a talk among the believers. That we have to sort of go out and talk to people that has power and has budget to essentially effect some change. I'm talking about, in this case, the LGUs, Kitty. LGUs and hopefully national government.
Yeah.
So it requires some continuing. What is this called? What is it called? Persistent effort. Yeah.
Persistent efforts.
Oh, yeah, repetition.
Right.
Repetitious effort. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Guzali, for your time this afternoon, for staying with us all throughout this forum, this very good launching of yours. Iti, anong iyong mensahe sa inyong mga magiging constituents sa Paranaque, sa Taguig, sa Pateros?
Mensahe. Abangan niyo po kami sa inyong mga area. So yun, ulitin ko po, kung gusto niyong makilahok dun sa aming project, please contact us, siguro through InkluNasyon. Ibibigay nila sa akin ipadala niyo yung name and contact numbers niyo dahil mas marami tayo, mas mabuti, dahil mas malakas at malayo ang ating mararating. I'd also like to thank yung ating mga kasama dito, si Miss Mitzi at si Miss Celia, sa INET din. That we thank you for welcoming our project, and we will make sure to update you and keep you posted kasi syempre we will also learn from you. We will also make sure na maganda ang ating exit strategy. Salamat po sa lahat ng paalala. So yun po ulit, para sa mga nasa Parañaque, Pateros, and Taguig, we look forward to working with everyone and sana matapos na itong pandemic para magka face-to-face tayong lahat. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much, Mr. Gozali, and to your group, and of course to the group of Mr. Wagner. And indeed a privilege to all our teammates here in InkluNasyon that you have chosen us to launch Project Scope, and we will wait for your further updates. And as I said, InkluNasyon is here for those purposes, for these very good ideas, impact projects such as Project Scope. And earlier we have the launching of the Enabling Master Plan here also in InkluNasyon. And we have this segment for your updates. We will be opening one in order to make sure that the future of the motherland will be properly accountable and responsible. And so let's skip the hope burning through Project Scope. And so in the meantime, baka gusto ni Karanil na magbigay ng pahapyaw sa June 2 episode. Karanil, you have your meron ka bang iuulat sa amin? Go ahead.
Yes, DJ Ronnie, pasensya na, hindi pa yata nakakabalik sa Karanil.
Sige, ikaw na lang.
Announcement, pang next week ko, para sa June 2 episode, samahan niyo huli kami para sa pag-uusap tungkol sa independent living. Ano ba itong malayang pamumuhay? Paano
tama. Parang ano yan?
May kapansanan? How is this for persons with disability?
Parang tamang-tama sa
next week.
Tamang-tama sa Independence Day. June, ano? Ikaw naman, independent living. So muli po, again, thank you to all Project Scope team, and God be with you in this very, very worthy endeavor. And remember, inclusion now na. Isha?
From all of us here in InkluNasyon, we would like to thank our panelists on today's episode. Thank you, Mr. Christoph Wagner, Attorney Alberto Muyot, Mr. Emil Gozali, and Ms. Kitty Arce for sharing your knowledge and spreading your advocacy with us, most especially for children with or without disabilities. We would like to thank the whole InkluNasyon core group who participated on today's episode. We would also like to thank Save the Children European Union in the Philippines, ANSA, and different social media partners such as NORFIL, INET, Life Heaven, and other pages that allowed us to cross-post our show. And to our sponsors, thank you for your endless support. Thank you also to all our avid viewers who are continually support and watch our show. Join us again next Wednesday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon for InkluNasyon, Inclusion Now Na!